Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Nina Bergman to talk her career and, of course, her latest movie, Cold Meat. How you doing, Nina?
I'm doing fantastic. I am.
Thanks for taking the time to come on. Sorry, you kind of froze for a second.
I just said it's a very special day today.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely want to talk Cold Meat because it was really, really good. You were great in it. But I was reading through your bio, and I mean, we could sit for a week and I don't think we'd cover everything, but if you kind of wanted to give some of the highlights, like what got you into performing?
I started, when I was 4 years old, I knew what I wanted to do because I was raised in a family where my grandparents, Russian grandparents, were performers. My grandma, Russian gypsy singer, and my grandfather was one of Russia's greatest actors. So, and my dad worked at the film school in Denmark. So I was just kind of, I just knew at 4 years old, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it sounded like you were kind of an industry kid straight away.
Straight away, yeah. I just always knew there was something magical about it. Watching your grandmother perform and watching, your grandfather in movies like Ivan the Terrible and, iconic movies like that. It was just something so magical about it. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to disappear into these worlds where they are, I wanted to, I just knew it since I was 4 years old.
For sure. Was acting the first interest? Because your grandma was a singer, but your grandfather an actor, and your father worked behind the scenes, it sounds like, so.
I actually, dancing was my first. I just wanted to express, I think I did my first TV show when I was 7. I created my first TV show when I was 7 years old. That was terrible that my dad helped me with. But, at 7, I thought it was, pretty good. And then I was just one of those, anything that had to do with performance. Yeah. Dancing, singing, acting. But the dancing was where I think I thrived the most because I got a scholarship to school called the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow, and it is the best in the world. And then, I just kind of went with it, and that's just the route that I happened to take. And then it led to
singing, then led into acting, dancing led to acting, led to singing.
Yeah. Yes.
And what brought you to American movies?
Well, I wasn't allowed to watch TV when I was a young girl. My dad just, I think maybe he worked. My parents just weren't really into TV. So the first big movie that I saw in the theaters was Thelma and Louise. And that was kind of it for me. There were these two women driving a Thunderbird. So as soon as I got here to California, the first thing I did with my big paycheck was to buy a Thunderbird because that represented freedom. It represented girl power. It represented standing up for what you believed. And, again, it was magical, So, yeah, that movie transformed.
Yeah, what year Thunderbird?
I actually rebought another one. Yeah, because, I just have to have a Thunderbird because it just kind of reminds me that's why I'm here, for the freedom.
What era? From the 60s, 70s? From the 60s, 70s?
No, because I don't drive stick. I mean, I ride motorcycles.
You couldn't find an automatic?
So it has to be the automatic. So it had to be Ford made one. So it has to be that version because I don't know. It's it's ridiculous. I don't know how to drive.
With everything you've done, when did you have time to learn?
I think, right? But I race cars, but it's all up here. The shifters are, they're up here. Mm-hmm. I do, last year I just did the Gumball,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
what car did you do that in?
I did it in a Ferrari, electric Ferrari.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, and again, the shifters, the pedal shifters are up there. So I just never had to,
Yeah, and the stick shifts are kind of dying out now anyway. It's all the paddle shifters.
Yeah, it's the paddle shifters, which is so easy.
Yeah, well, especially in a hypercar because you lose all that time. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
I didn't even know you did racing, and I was already thought you lived an interesting life.
Well, you know, motorcycles is my thing, but yeah, put me behind anything fast. I mean,
Yeah.
anything fast. But I mean, now that was my last race, Adam. This was it for me. I'm calming down now. I'm becoming.
I don't know. I bet you get the itch again. Especially, do you live in Los Angeles?
I do.
Especially in that traffic, you're going to want to get out on an open road at some point.
Yeah, I ride motorcycles. So
okay, so you kind of dodge it.
Yeah, I'm always the one on a bike, because once you ride a bike, you can't go back. I mean, I ride my Thunderbird, but mainly my bikes. Yeah.
The Thunderbird, you kind of just take it out to take it out. Yeah.
Yeah. When, you know, it rained in LA for once. So it was like, you know, you need a car. Yeah. Cause you know, I try to be as safe as I can on my bikes. I really try to consciously only ride when I'm in the right headspace, when, you know, I get all geared up, because I had some really bad accidents.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm lucky to be here. Knock on wood.
Did you do any bike racing too?
Yeah.
Very cool. Something else that jumped out that I thought was really interesting was you were also a boxer for a while.
Yeah. Yes.
How did that come about?
Like I'm playing one next week again. I worked in an underground backgammon club as like a cocktail waitress. And those guys bet on anything. I mean, anything. They'll just bet on anything. And they had these like silly fights. And then I got sucked into that, and I started boxing because I was very ballet-y, you know, as a ballerina. And I worked as well as a backup dancer for various bands. So I had to become more, you know, grounded, because I was just too ballet-y, or whatever you want to call it. So they sent me to boxing, and I trained with a guy named Maka, who's no longer with us, who took me to Freddie Roach.
Oh, wow.
That trained me, yeah, at Wildcard when I came out here. And then I would just do, you know, fights, and broke my nose a couple of times, and you know, those teeth are, you know, whatever, and I can't really hear in my right ear. And then I stopped. You know, I just did it to make some quick cash. And when I went to train with Freddie, I realized, like, you know, I had to make a commitment, you know, to go pro if I didn't want to do that. And my idol, Lucia Riker, was like, "You're not a fighter. That's not who you are. Don't do it." And she was my idol, who trained me at the time. When I started, there wasn't a lot of women. There was actually no women. There's no changing rooms for the women. It was just a handful of us. So,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not something you kind of want to do passively. Like, if you're going to be a competition fighter, you got to be all in, or...
I mean, you have to. And I just don't think it's my calling. I just don't think... you know, I just saw this beautiful interview with Mike Tyson about how he talks. He didn't like himself when he became a boxer. You know, Lucia Riker talked a lot about that too. She was a vegan, and whenever she would box, she would eat meat because it made her aggressive, you know, and it's like, you have to go to a place where I don't want to live there anymore. You know, I used to live in that place, you know, competition and I'll show you, and bigger and better. And, you know, I'll punch you in the face, and, you know, just very confrontational and very competitive. And I don't know, I just, I think I have a lot more in me than that.
Yeah, it seems like it. You seem like a very up person, so to get into that headspace all the time has to kind of drag you down, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I was there, you know, I sang in rock bands, you know, I listened to I mean, people call it dark music. For me, it made me super happy. You know, I used to be super depressed when I listened to happy music, and dark music that sang about what I felt made me very happy. So, you know, for me, it's like, music is too happy, it makes me depressed. You know? When people sing about real stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, this makes me happy because I can relate. So, you know, I was just in that space at the time. So it totally worked out with the music I was doing. I was doing undercover animal rights activism, you know, and I didn't know all the things that I saw. I didn't know where to put it. So it seemed appropriate to put it into a bag and on the mic and in my lyrics.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you still keep up any of the boxing skills, like as a workout, you know, not hitting somebody else, but just to run through the drills and stuff?
Yeah, I still train. I mean, there was a while there where I would go back to Wildcard, but it's not what it used to be now that Freddie doesn't run it anymore. But it was like, you know, I'd go back and train with some of the people I trained with it, and I would throw up. I mean, you have to, you know, it's not something I can like pop in and out of,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
makes
But I
sense.
do for fun, and I still train, and I still will, spar with my friends and stuff. But yeah, not at that level I used to. I mean, that was my life,
Right.
like 4 hours a day minimum.
Yeah, yeah, you can't do that with everything else you have going on.
No, no, no.
That's fascinating, though. I mean, you've done so many things. It's crazy to try to have any kind of like linear. Just everything is a new question.
Well, I started very young, and it to me it all tied in. It's all a part of the same thing. I mean, boxing tied into the music, that tied into the animal rights activism, that tied into the characters I would play, that tied into. I mean, it was all like under the same umbrella to me. It all seemed to somehow fit together.
Well,
Yeah.
in your mind, when you kind of flip that switch, like as an actor, you do a role, you have to flip the switch and be that person, at least while the camera's on.
Yeah.
It's a different switch that you found than when you're doing boxing.
Yeah, because in a boxing, you can put me in a ring and I get in a headspace, and then when it's over, I can snap out of it. When sometimes I play these parts, it's not like I show up on set and then I just snap into it. I have to kind of live it. I go to bed like the character. I wake up a little bit like the character. I try to, when I work, not reply to emails, social media, all of that. And I kind of live in a bubble. And it's very hard for me to go in and out of character. Like I keep my character with me at all times. I can't, yeah, with boxing, it was just like I'm in the ring and then I just see red. It's like one emotion.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
I get in there and it's just one emotion and I just go to a different place. And then it's like, I remember I get out and I can't really remember what happened. Everything's a blur. It's just like I snap into this weird place. Like almost like an out of body experience for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now that you explain it that way, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Where acting, I have to be 100% present. And I don't just, disappear maybe in the moment in the scene, but I'm always somehow aware. Yeah, I can't snap in and out of it. I'm one of those that have to stay pretty much in character most of the time, or at least like keep half of her in me,
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I carry.
There's a lot of logic to that.
Yeah, it's the only way I know how to do it.
But also, like you said, boxing is one emotion. It's you see red, you're there to knock the other person down or out.
Destroy. Yeah, it's just.
But
like,
as an actor, even in an angry scene, you need every emotion because that person has a whole backstory and.
Exactly, and you're with another actor, and you're acting, and in fighting scenes, I can't just destroy.
Right.
The whole point is you learn how to, I've been lucky enough to train with the guys from 8711 and Daniel Bernhardt, who, where actually my boxing hurt me in all those action scenes because everything is very tight.
Oh, yeah.
And in movie fighting, everything is very big. I mean, it feels completely counterintuitive to me.
Yeah.
But it looks amazing on camera, and everything is all about safety and not hitting, where in boxing it's easy. It's just you just target, destroy, that's it.
So you kind of had to adapt how you were doing things.
Yeah, so I'm always somehow I'm always like a little part of me is always watching, and I have to remember the choreography, and I have to be careful that I can't just destroy the other actor,
Right. Yeah, you'll never get hired again.
I think that's what I've learned is I think more so when I was newer, I didn't know how to control it. It's like one of those, I'd go to places as an actor and then they say cut and then I couldn't stop. It would take me an hour to snap out of it, where I think becoming a professional is like, you learn to do the fighting scenes, but you learn to protect your fellow actor opponent. And when you get to these emotional scenes, I can kind of take 15 minutes and I'm back to do another take, or 10 minutes, or sometimes 5 minutes, and I'm ready to go there from the beginning and go through the whole emotional arc again, where when I was newer I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You like doing a lot of the stunt work?
I do.
Do you do because you do bikes, you race cars, do you do a whole variety of stunts, or do you just like the more physical stuff?
Well, I'm not a stunt person. You know, there's like pro stunt.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like the real ones. But I'll do anything. You know, I've done wire work. I've jumped through, you know, windows. I have had fire parts of me set on fire. I do my rolls and kicking and punching and, you know, all of that stuff. I try to do as much as they'll let me, but a lot of times they won't let me because I'm a liability, because if something happened, then the movie's over.
Right. Yeah.
So they'd rather have the stunt person, even though I could, they'd rather have the stunt person do it. But I like to do, you know.
When you can. Yeah. That's cool.
Yes.
It's got to be fun, like change up your day to day.
I mean, I love it. I love it. I just, I truly love it. It's an art form, and, you know, it's so fun when you work with people who are really great, and, you know, you get to watch them. You know, they're amazing, some of these stunt people. I mean, it's insane what they do.
Yeah.
What I do, I mean, you know, I do okay, but compared to the real ones, you know, it's like, it's a whole art form.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Them.
It's every now and then I'll like dive into documentaries or something on actual, like, real deep into it stunt people, and it's like it blows your mind what it takes to put together a 5-minute segment.
Yeah. It's amazing. And it's a little bit like ballet, because you have to learn the routines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you learn like a whole routine, you know, all the punches, the kicks, and, you know, you learn the whole segment, you know, the fighting segment, whatever, in one. So it's like all the dancing really helps. They always say that, you know, it's good to work with dancers because we learn, you know, sometimes they'll give you, you know, 20 moves and you have to remember them like a choreography. And you mess up, and it's really dangerous for the other actor, one person.
And you have to do it all while hitting the mark so the camera's in the right place and everything.
And be in character and forget about everything else, right?
Right.
Be in character and remember what you're doing and where you are in the project.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a whole other world. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to get into Cold Meat, because I thought it was excellent. I just watched it this morning, actually.
Thank you.
Great in it. But how did that one initially come to you?
It was a straight offer. I did a movie called Hell Hath No Fury, and the director saw me, and the studio saw me, and they made a straight offer. And when I read it, it was like a play. And I come from the theater background, so it was like amazing for me to do a play. And then also, you know, it was fun to just get to act. And again, I love the action stuff, but, you know, sometimes I don't get to do a lot of the more emotional parts, you know, because so, you know, I get cast with the badass a lot and the fighting.
Right.
So it was really fun to get to show different colors. For once, yeah,
saying it read like a play, it definitely tracks, and that's really cool, because we didn't even get into your whole stage background. It was a whole other career you've had.
No, that was my true passion, was the stage. But, you know, it's very hard to make a living, and not a lot of people see it, and again, it's very limited, you know. And, you do the same, you know, play for 6 months, 8 nights a week. So where with movies, it's more fun because it's more varied.
Yeah, play sounds exhausting, just mentally.
And you have the audience right there, and you just get to perfect it. You just really get to perfect what you're doing.
Do you find by like month 7 out of an 8-month run, you're just kind of like on autopilot, or are you always?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's other nights. Some nights you're really there. Some nights, you know, you're thinking about your laundry list. You know, in between it. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. But it feels a little bit like a meditation practice doing plays. And I think it's such a good exercise to learn to jump in and out, you know, because sometimes you're on stage and you sit there in the wing for whatever, 20 minutes until you're on again. So it's, you know, it's just such a good exercise, I think, to quickly get back into it, and then you're out, and then quickly get back into it. Yeah. And then just the depth and the time, you know, I remember I did the Cherry Orchard, and we had 3 months of rehearsal, you know, so you get to dive into the history, you get to dive into the character, the philosophy of the author, Chekhov. And I just love that. I'm preparation whore. I just love to prepare. Maybe it's from the dancing and the boxing, you know. I mean,
I guess so.
When I was at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow, the owner of the school, the principal, she always said, there's no good or bad. There's just strong and weak. And I actually do believe in that. Like if you are super prepared, you're just going to be better.
Yeah, that's got to be undeniable. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
sorry, we got to diverge from.
I know we need to talk about cold meat.
You've done too many things. You're too interesting.
Well, cold meat, I got to use a lot of it because she was so different.
Yeah.
The character was so different from what I'm doing now and what I did back then, you know? So so I got to use a lot of who I was before I did all the crazy things, you know, because I grew up in Denmark, and in Denmark, it's very like, there's a law called the Jante law. That's amazing. Everyone is the same. But at the same time, if you want to thrive and succeed at something, it's not encouraged because everyone is the same. Like I went to school, I could already read pretty much. And you don't jump a class. You just, why? Because you're all the same.
Right. They can't put you above the other kids your age. You have to do the same thing they're doing.
Which is a beautiful thing, but someone like me, it was
good and bad. Yeah.
So I was a little more timid and more like my character in Anna. I was a little more like her. You know, I was in bad relationships when I was younger and abusive relationships, and you know, I had shitty jobs, and I was the underdog. I couldn't really speak up. You know. Where, you know, now, I mean, I won't tolerate anything, you know, I'll speak up. Back then, I just didn't have the courage. I think that's why I needed to go and box and do all these things, because I just didn't know how to verbalize a lot of things.
Yeah, well, you've mastered so many things. Your confidence, your self-confidence has to be way up there now. And
yeah, but Anna doesn't have that. So it was very interesting to go back to who I used to be to become her, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the embarrassment of the bruises she has from her abusive relationship. And, you know, I did all that. So I know what it feels like, but it wasn't the most fun thing to draw from.
To kind of get in that headspace again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the course, she does find her strength. So
yes,
I'm trying to speak vague to not give it away from people. But so you got to do that transformation, but just in, you know, what, a 30, 45 day shoot instead of your entire lifetime.
I know. Yeah. But she has something that I don't have. She had a daughter.
Oh, okay.
She was doing it for, you know, and I think that's why she could do it so fast too. And
that's a really good point. Yeah.
I mean, in the movie, without giving it away, she had to do whatever she had to do to protect her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where she drew her. That's where she got her inner strength and her superpowers. You know, where for me, I had, you know, I had my siblings. That was about it that I was very close to. So I think that's how she gets her inner strength.
Yeah, that's another layer I mean, obviously I thought of it, but not to that level because I don't have any kids either. So that's probably it didn't hit as hard. Yeah,
but I read a lot of stories about, you know, women who their kids were trapped under a semi truck and they somehow, it's physically impossible, would lift it up to get their kid out. And there's a lot of stories of physically impossible things that women have done for their kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, you know, if we only use 10% of our capacity, I think, you know, my character gets to dig down and draw. Maybe she's using 15 or 20% of her capacity. You know? Yeah, that's where she finds her power. So yeah, that's what drew me to the character too in the first place, because she has that transformation. You know, I love character arcs. That's what I look for.
It was definitely a movie written for the actors. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, it was a fun actor. That's a dream part. I mean, you get to play, you get to rehearse, you know, and I was lucky enough to do it with Alan Leach from Downton Abbey, who is just such a pro and wonderful to work with. And, you know, we did have a lot of fun within the misery. if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. Like you cut and then you guys can kind of relieve the tension and joke around a little bit and then jump back into it.
He jokes around a lot. Let me tell you, I can't, because remember, I can't go too far away. Then it takes a while to get back in.
You gotta stay in.
So I got to stay in. I mean, they'll play like fun music on set, Depeche Mode, and I was like the boring one that was like, turn it off, you know?
How was it shooting in such a confined, like you can't get much more confined than that?
I mean, it was challenging because a lot of time, you know, we had one car on location, and then we had one car on set, and you know, the camera sometimes is like right there. So it's like a very interesting, you know, it's like so close, you know, and I would act and do things. And it's like there's like all these people crammed in the car with us to get the shot. And it's like, you really have to, you know, thank God for all the acting schools I've been to, an acting class. And, you know, because I really had to like just create that fourth wall and just not, you know, and you can hear them breathing, you know, you can literally hear all these people and feel the energy breathing. So that one was challenging, but we had a really great crew. They're very, very, very respectful. So that was very helpful. And again, Alan is so good. So, you know, he says 2 words or just look at him. And then I'm right back in and forget, you know, I forgot. I was lucky to be able to just be there.
Yeah, that's great. Is the script you initially read pretty much what you like I would see on the screen?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the director had it for like 10 years or something crazy. And, you know, he had every shot envisioned, you know, he wrote it, he directed it. He's a special effects artist. Like he has some pretty elaborate credits. So he's been in the business for a long time and he's a pro, and he just knew exactly what he wanted. You know, I think after we started working, he would kind of step back a little more and let Ellen and I do our thing. Because, you know, he's had his vision and then he gets these 2 characters come in and we both have our own vision of the characters. So I think it took a second for us to blend. We had a few days of rehearsal and it took a few days for us to like blend the visions. So, you know, I took whatever he was telling me he saw, felt, and her expression, and then kind of found this. Yeah, it took a little time to find her. Yeah,
so you were able to meet his vision while still putting some of you into it.
Yes. And the end scene we changed. Me and Alan changed the end scene. I just couldn't really feel it in the script, and Alan and I took a chance and we showed up on set and we did. We let the director know and we did how we saw it. We rehearsed it all night the night before and in the end scene, and we did it. And luckily, you know, I don't encourage actors to do that, to, you know, just take charge of the script. But we just both felt so strongly about this particular change, and we did it to show the director, and he loved it, and that's what's in the movie. So the end kind of monologue in the end of the movie kind of scene in the very end was changed a bit. But you know, when you work with great directors, you know, if it's, you know, it's always what's best for the project and for the movie. And we were lucky enough that Sebastian just saw, well, if it's better, then let's leave it, right?
Right.
Yeah, where sometimes, you know, it's not always the case. They want what they want.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of stories there too. But we
and you kind of have to squeeze yourself in there, you know, and make it work. But in this case, you know, it's the end scene, and yeah, he got it. He got it. So we were very lucky that way. Very, very lucky that he was open.
Without giving spoilers, did it change the ultimate like ending, like that last shot?
No, okay. That one was always the same because it has to tie into the beginning. If you pay attention to my opening monologue, it all ties in the end. So the end has to happen the way it happens.
Okay, that makes sense.
Otherwise, it's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
Because I kind of give it away in the beginning. If you pay attention, I talk about it. And then in the very end, things happen and it all ties in. So it had to be that end.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. There was so many especially in like the first 20 minutes to half hour, there was so many like huge surprises that you do not see coming. So that's why I had to ask about the ending.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he knew. I mean, to the director's credit, I mean, he had a crystal clear vision, you know, of what he wanted and how he saw it and the beats and how it was going to read. And, so, you know, we didn't shoot a lot of extra footage, and also because it was a lower budget movie. So there's not, you know, in the bigger budget, they just shoot and shoot, and then you make the movie in the editing room, where in this case, I mean, he knew what he wanted. So we shot the shots that he needed.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the luxury of shooting all extra stuff. Yeah.
Do you like that kind of like the indie vibe on a set like that, where it's a little bit more everyone's kind of in it together? You need to.
Oh, that's my favorite. It's not my favorite paycheck, but it's my favorite. It's my favorite movies because it feels like a family, you know, because everyone is in it together. Everyone is not doing it for the money. Everyone is doing it for the project, and everyone is helping out, and everyone putting their best efforts into it. And it's just a completely different atmosphere than, you know, when you're in bigger movies, and, you know, it's just a lot less people on set. So it's a smaller crew as well. I mean, you don't get the, you know, the only thing is you don't get the 5-star, the first class, the, you know, all of that stuff.
Right. Know, yeah.
Personal assistant, you know, and you snap your fingers and you have whatever you want. But I like it because, you know, then I get to play more and, you know, explore more, and I feel more utilized, and I'm more listened to, and instead of hit your mark and say your line.
Right. Yeah, like a massive big production, you probably don't get to go to the director and be like, hey, let's change the ending. I have an idea.
No, you don't. No, yeah. No, you don't.
But that's cool. Yeah. You get to do both. I mean, I know there's so much about your career we didn't touch on.
Yes. Yes, it's very cool. I think it's important, you know, to do both, so you appreciate the one, you know, both of those worlds. You know, I hope I get to continue doing both. I mean, I have some exciting projects coming up this year that I'm shooting. I have another one coming out, Chief of Station with Aaron Eckhart, an action movie that Jesse Johnson directed. That's a fun one that's coming out in May. And then I'm shooting some exciting projects this year. So yeah, I'm very excited for the future, because I get to continue on this journey playing these very interesting characters, I have to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's kind of a release. It's like a limited release for Cold Meat coming up with a Q&A after.
Yeah, so there is a worldwide premiere because it's online. February 17th, this Saturday at 12 p.m. my time, Pacific Standard Time. And then, you know, you can get tickets, and it's just like a regular premiere, but it's online, and there's a Q&A with the actors after, and that's the first time. And then it's going to be up there for a while. And then there's going to be a limited theatrical release, and then I'm sure it's going to be released again on digital platforms. But the premiere is this Saturday. They had a premiere at Fright Fest in England, but, cool. But we weren't able to go because of the actors' strike.
Oh, right. So, okay.
Yes. So we got, you know, great reviews, but we couldn't go. So now we have, you know, an online premiere as well.
Yeah, that's cool. The Q&A will be fun, too.
Yeah, it will be fun.
Awesome. Yes. Well, Nina, I know we're a little bit over the time. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and hang out and at least talk a little bit about your career. There's so much more we could get into.
I know. I just have to come back. Next
Absolutely.
project, I'll come back.
Next movie, we'll do it again.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I like all of your setups, all your characters.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. It's like
my
a whole
Star Wars wall.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and thanks again. That was a great conversation. I had a great time.
Well, thank you. Okay.